morning?
Okay.
I'm great. Thank you very much.
We had a meeting this morning with disability advocates about community living. Can you tell us about that meeting?
Yeah, I met with a number of my constituents actually. Donnie, who would have spoke here today, Donnie Watson is a constituent of mine. You would have talked to Larry as well. They delivered me a letter around people first, around independent living as part of the roadmap. We continue to work with the department to ensure that we get people's independent living as quickly as possible.
It seems pretty unlikely that this government can meet the 2023 target of clearing the wait list and getting people into the community. And so what would be your government's commitment to people looking for access?
Well, we're continuing to make sure that we get as many people into the community as possible. As you know, each person's individual needs are different. The amount of support required will be different depending on the individual circumstance. I said, and I talked to Donnie and Larry both about the experience that we know in Annapolis County. There's a group home in Church Street where in my 15, 16 years of being in office, we've seen the population of that community change, where people have come in for a period of time and moved them out into independent living. We've also seen other places where the medical needs that are required and supports that are required are much greater, so it's a much more difficult transition. And looking at how do we best put those supports in place, and we will do it as we continue to go through ensuring that those who want to live independently will have that opportunity.
The situation didn't just start when you became Premier, in fairness to you, and everybody today acknowledged that too, but you are Premier and you've been Premier for 6 years, and so at this point, what is a reasonable expectation for people waiting in terms of when they might see access?
Well, we're doing it now. It's ongoing. We're continuing to move people in the community every day. I mean, that's the reality. I understand, though, for some it's not fast enough, but we continue to move people into the community. As I just said to you, the transition that's happening in my own constituent, we'll see that. We see other supports where people who actually leave to go live solely on their own, or some will transition into the group homes that were being developed. Now that we are administered, I think there's 2 out now. There's another 6 that we've committed to. One of them is part of the redevelopment down in the Taggart long-term care, where we'll have a separate facility altogether, providing those supports. And what our hope is, and I think what most people will acknowledge, particularly families, that the transition from home to independent living is a big jump. The question is, how do we provide them that support in the middle, that's what those transitional care things, to allow them to be to get some of the skills that are required to go to independent living. Many families will tell you that they would like to have their loved one go from home to this group setting with supports to be able to do the issues around managing money, supports grocerying, all of those kinds of things. And that way, the greatest success of independent living has come from when we've had that.
With this being such a big issue, why did we not see a major funding commitment in our budget this year to create more spaces for people who need it?
Well, there's continued making investment in that, but it has to be in a position where we're giving people the best chance of success. And it's not as simple as just saying everyone is going to move from where they currently live into an independent apartment. What is required is how do we ensure that we deal with the specific needs of individuals, at the same time setting them up for the best chance of success and supports around it.
Mr. Premier, but since 2013, when your government and Minister Bernard endorsed the roadmap, it seems very little has happened. There's still 8 homes that have been promised and 2 have been built, and that's since 2013. So one of the letters I think you got today from the Disability Rights Coalition was asking for a legislative multi-year commitment. Can you give that to the group at this time?
So I think the 8 homes you're referring to were not announced in 2013. It's when the program and the work that was starting around the roadmap started in 2013. Those homes were committed to, I think, in around 2015, 2016. We are now rolling them out. We've had other options where people are actually not moving into group homes, they're actually moving into independent apartments for the living. A number of, I know both Donnie and Larry would live independently. They transitioned. So that they are a great example of how we continue to provide that. So having people in that period of time moving to independent living, not moving from there to group homes. Some have been leaving from our current group homes and independent living. So in that period of time, there has been that taking place. We do acknowledge for those families that are still looking for a faster pace. We want to make sure, though, that when we go down this road, we have great success for the individuals that are there. It's
When could they?
well, we're continuing on going to do that. The announcement that the ministers are making, we're continuing to work with the community every day to deal with, in some cases, very unique and special requirements that will be needed to allow people to live independently.
Donnie said that he's expecting to meet with you again in a few weeks' time. Will you have something new to tell him at that point?
No, I meet with Donnie and I know them well. There's an organization, People's First as a wing in my constituency that I meet with. Rhonda is the current president who couldn't be here today, and Donnie is filling in for her. I meet with them often. They were in my office actually about a business opportunity that they see in the riding. I'm supporting them. I told Donnie that to meet with the entire board may be more challenging in the short term, but I'd be happy to meet with the executive, or they meet them at the office, or they'll come to my house and I'll meet them there.
Premier, one of the issues raised today was the challenge that parents of adult children with disabilities face. Could more be done to recognize perhaps the strains that they're under and provide them more supports?
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that there's been a narrow definition of independent living that had been administered by government for a period of time. So if you had an apartment in your house, that wouldn't satisfy what the definition of independent living, yet in fact your child could be living in that apartment very independently, doing their own cooking and that. We need to look at that to make sure that we're allowing that transition to happen. Because one of the fears that parents have, or ones that I shouldn't say, the parents have communicated to me at times, is that transition directly from home into an apartment on their own. How do we make sure we provide that transition of things, shopping for groceries, the cost of living, how do we deal with money, all of those types of things that we would we would just automatically assume has happened is an anxiety for them, and that's what the best way is. How do we best provide multiple options for these families when it comes to providing their children to live independently? Listen, they have the same hopes and dreams for their children as I have for mine. Independent living, being able to be successful as they can be, and we're working towards how do we best make that happen, and we have to do it in a way that is sustainable and safe. And when I mean sustainable, I don't mean financially. I mean for the person to be able to live independently, sustainably, with all the supports they require.
Premier, question period is getting underway.
Maureen McDonald says she did speak to you about what happened with Denise Peterson Rayfuse. Do you not recall that?
No, I don't. I said to you yesterday, I talked to Maureen a number of times when she was interim leader, but at no time. I remember her talking to me about any physical altercation with any of my members.
Are you planning to reach out to either of these people to find out what happened?
No, they didn't write to me. They actually wrote to the speaker. I don't know if the speakers or not.
Do you
Why-
support an internal affairs investigation?
Well, they're not members anymore. Internal affairs is about the current members of the House of Assembly.
What
That's where
about-
we deal with them.
Okay, so what about with Mr. Churchill?
Well, that issue was brought to the floor of the legislature. We voted on it, and it did not consent to internal affairs.
Why won't you reach out to these people to find out what happened?
Well, they didn't write to me. They wrote to
They CC'd you.
They wrote to the Speaker of the House of Assembly and addressed it to him, and he'll follow it, do what he wished. But as I said, this issue was 5 or 6 years ago, and at no time did anyone tell me any of my members had physical contact.
But
But you know